Hello and welcome to another episode of More Bang for Her Buck, a show that's produced by Brown on the Outside. The objective of this show is to get more women to talk about money because we've realized that so much of our freedom and our independence and our empowerment are issues that are so entangled with conversations about money. And if we don't start talking money, then how are we going to get all that freedom and independence that we need? So on the show today, I have two very, very special guests. The first is my mum, the great Vimala Varadan, 73 years old, and one of the most fiercely independent women I have the pleasure of knowing. A quick story about her. In 1996, my dad had a stroke, and she went from being just a mum of two and working in Central Bank of India to also being the primary caregiver in our home. And in 2022, my dad passed away, and she's spent the last year and a half really living it up. So this year alone, she has traveled to, Sri Lanka, Belgium, France, Seychelles, where else, Mum? What have I missed? Cambodia, Vietnam.
Japan.
And apart from being completely financially independent, she also manages a lot of my sisters and my money. So she manages our portfolios as well. So that's my mother, ladies and gentlemen, Vimla Varadan. Welcome onto the show, Mama.
Hello.
Also on the show today is Rucha Daryani. Rucha, thank you so much for joining us. Rucha runs an incredibly important project. It's called the Mum Identity Project. And the story of Rucha's career and life and her children has been that many years ago you were a talent manager, a job 10 years ago, which requires 14, 16 hours of your day.
Sometimes even more, yeah.
Sometimes even more. And, that stopped when you had your daughter. And then you went into, again, a caregiving role year after year after year. There were other needs of your families that you needed to attend to. And now you run this project which helps women understand what it is that becoming a mum does to their identity. And I'm curious to find out from you what it does to their financial freedom as well.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here, Malvika. I'm really excited. So the Mum Identity Project began because I went back to work after a 7-year maternity break.
Yeah.
And I did a workshop for going back to work after a maternity break. And in that we did an exercise called Mapping Your Life, where we had to draw 5 important circles of our life.
Yeah.
We were about 12 to 15 women in the group. And I realized at the end of it that I was the only woman who did not write anything about myself in those 5 circles. My 5 circles were kids, husband, in-laws, community, friends. There was absolutely nothing about Rucha on there. And that was a turning point where I realized that as mums, we give so much of ourselves into everyone else that we somehow end up being the last on our own list. When we should be somewhere up there, because if your cup is not full, how can you give anything to anybody?
Possibly give anything.
So that's where the Mum Identity Project has started. And now we are a community that helps stay-at-home mums re-identify, rediscover who they are after becoming mums.
Yeah.
So anything that sparks the joy in them, they don't have to go back to work. It could be painting, drawing, dancing, anything. Traveling like her, that sparks joy in them, that brings back that feeling of, yes, this is Rucha, who's not a mom, who's not a wife.
Yeah.
And that's what we did through the Mum Identity Project.
That's amazing. And now you're a community of over 1,000 women?
Yes, just over 1,000, yes.
Okay. I'm really curious to know why you felt this urgent need to address women who have left the workforce and whose identities are so tied into their work and then everything that replaces that work, right? Their families. Do you see that across the board with all of the women that you speak to, the 1,000 women that you speak to on a daily basis?
I don't talk to 1,000 on a daily basis, but all the women that I speak to, they have some have realized, some have not realized that they've lost themselves. There's a feeling of, I'm feeling stuck in life where I am. I am not happy where I am. Who am I? Why am I doing this? You constantly want to cry. There's a sense of loss, but you don't know what you've lost because you have a child, so you think you've gained something, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a need for this because when I had that realization after the workshop, my first thing was I'm going to go and find a job because that's what's going to give me back what I've lost. And when I did go to look for that job and I found the job and I went back to work, I actually hated it. I did it for 6 months. It was a super supportive organization. They were great with me, but I hated it. And that's when I realized that if I had a community that sort of guided me at that point through what I really need to do next to figure out who I am, then it would be huge help. And that's what we do through the Mom Identity Project. We take these women through a journey, a 4-stage journey actually, of healing, of discovery, upskilling and launch to sort of give them that platform to rediscover themselves.
Yeah. My mom's been through, I think, several of these rediscoveries in her life, right? So, Mom, you want to talk us through? So, your financial position in the last 73 years has really changed, right? From the home that you grew up in to when you got married to when we were born, and then when you moved to Bangalore, and then after Dad got sick, and now where you are today. You want to talk us through financially how it changed over time, and what were you prioritizing when you were moving those roles?
I started out as a working woman and got married, had kids, went back to work. It wasn't very difficult in those days, and it was a given that we just get back to work and continue the jobs that we are doing. But later on, when my husband had a stroke, that was when it really hit me. You got to know everything about your finances and be prepared for any emergencies like this. And yeah, that was the difficult part, because then you don't know where the money is coming from, where you're going to be able to sustain yourself, and even a day-to-day living became difficult. But luckily we had a very supportive family, so it was okay for some time. But I had to see to it that you all were also independent and understood the value of money, understood the value of going out to work and earning your own money and living by yourself, so that you're not a burden on me. The basic necessities like a college education I could give you, but any other external enjoyments and all that had to be taken care of by yourselves, which made you understand the value of money and made you understand the importance of being independent and learning all these things at a very young age. That is the most important part of it.
Yeah.
And later on, of course, after he passed away, I'm now free to live a life of my own. And I do not owe anything to anybody. I do not owe any explanations to anybody. And I am not answerable to anybody. So I am just living it up with whatever finances I have saved up and digging into the savings a little by little and trying to do whatever I can to keep myself busy and enjoy the rest of my life.
Yeah. So my mom is a real inspiration, by the way. Mom, you want to tell them all the things that you sign up for on a monthly basis, all your classes?
Yeah, I like to keep myself busy. So I am trying to learn French, spoken French, because since my daughter's married a Belgian and my grandchildren only talk French, I decided to learn spoken French so that I'd be able to converse with them. And I'm also learning music, piano, so that I can since I suffer from Parkinson's, I wanted to have a little bit of exercise for the fingers. And I do yoga. I did Zumba. I did, all these things have been going on. Even before my husband passed away, during pandemic, I used to do it during the day when we were at home and we were forced to be at home. And now I continue to do that and I enjoy every part of it. So I'm continuing every single thing, including traveling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people my mom's age, right, Mom? They feel like, okay, we've saved up all this money, but we should leave it to our children. We shouldn't spend it because, what if they need it? What if some medical emergency happens in our old age? But what makes you feel like, okay, forget it, yeah, come on, let's just break that fixed deposit and spend it already?
I don't think anybody is dependent on you. It's just a imagination. It's just a kind of a feeling that you get your responsibility is not over. And whatever you have to leave for your children and they have to lead a better life. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary. They don't need it. And I think you need to live a life of your own. You need to enjoy yourself and do what you like doing and travel or whatever it is. But one has to indulge in oneself.
Well done, Mom.
She's a living example of the Mom Identity Project. This is what we want to get moms do,
She really is. She really is. Okay, I want to go back to something that I've read a lot about, which is the motherhood penalty. But I'll tell you what, how about we discuss the motherhood penalty after we take a quick break? On More Bang for Her Buck, we're talking about mums and their identities. And on the show with us, the living example of a mum identity project and a woman who runs the mum identity project. I think my big takeaway from the first part of this conversation has been that if you're a mum, make those 5 circles for yourself. How do you qualify those 5 circles?
It's called mapping your life, and you have to draw 5 important aspects of your life. It could be anything that means the most, that you spend the most time doing in your life.
Great. And if you're not on it, then take the example of my mum and put yourself on your mapping, in life. But I want to talk about this concept of the motherhood penalty. Now, some of you might have heard about the motherhood penalty, but for those of you who haven't, for every child that a woman has, she is likely to make 6% less in the workplace. And the opposite is true for the man. So fatherhood is seen as a bonus where for every child that a man has, he's likely to see a raise of 4% more. Did you feel like you knew enough before you chose motherhood? What did you wish you had known? What were the tough parts what a question to ask, right? But what were the hardest parts of becoming a mother and making that choice, and the impact it had on you financially and the choices you had to make because of certain financial reasons? Should we start with you, Rucha?
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that statistic at all.
Yeah.
I think a huge part of that is mindset, how women are expected to be the primary caregivers.
Yeah.
You're a mom, so you're going to look after the kid. You're going to be the person who's doing everything. Whereas the only responsibility on a father is providing financially. And that is, I want to say changing, but it's far from it.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would have really liked to know, which I actually heard recently, was that so many times after becoming a mom, you are trying to cling on to and hold on to the older version of yourself. So the Rucha that was before she had kids. And my therapist actually said to me, try to work on the Rucha that has become now after becoming a mom, after motherhood. Try to work on that version of yourself as opposed to holding on to the older version. And I wish I had known that, because I worked so hard for the last 7 years to try to become the old Rucha, when that's not possible.
Yeah, you're just not the same person. No?
You're just not the same person.
Yeah, mom, what dad and you were making, a sum total of 3,000 rupees when you had Manisha, right? What was the hardest thing about making that choice that, okay, we're going to have children, but this is going to really financially hit us? I think there's so much of joy around this idea of having a child and starting a family that we don't actually sit down as a couple and talk about how it's going to hit us financially. Right? So how did it hit you guys?
It really hit very badly, because I had to go without a salary for many months in a row. But I knew that it is just a temporary period where I just have to struggle through it. And after the child grows up and starts becoming a little more independent and all, things will be better, and I will be able to leave her at a babysitter or do whatever I have to do. And, the financial aspect of it is the most important.
Yeah.
And it really hits you, because you need the money. There will be extra expenses, but at the same time, you're not able to go back to work. You don't have that much of money. It's very difficult at that time, and it really crushes you.
Yeah.
But one has to go through that period to understand what is the difficulties and how you can get out of it. Many people do things at home and try to be entrepreneurs at that time and earn a little bit of money on the side. But when you have a good job, I had to go back to my job. There was no way I could get out of it. I had to go back to it, and somehow I managed to find a babysitter. And it really tore my heart to leave a little child of 1 year or 1.5 years at a babysitter. But then I had a very understanding mother-in-law who explained to me that this is just a temporary period of 2-3 years, and after that you will get over it and she will become more independent and life will be much better. Don't worry, but you have to go through this difficulty and then go to the end of the tunnel.
And this was in Bombay, right? Where space was a constraint, travel was a pain. Life in Bombay is not easy. But
and money is always required over there. You have to be financially independent. Otherwise, life can be very, very difficult.
But when when you guys moved to Bangalore to have me, my grandmother, Patti, was there to take care of me. But we were talking about this before the show as well, right? That here in the UAE, I think of my team, which is a predominantly female team, and I'm thinking, if they choose to have children right now, how are we going to manage this? Because you don't have parents here to take care of them, the costs of nannies, it's really tough. You feel that?
Listen, it's the biggest barrier for women to go back to work here. I speak to so many women. It's the lack of childcare availability. I mean, you have nannies, you leave them, but then what about the school pickups and the school drop-offs?
Yeah.
It's just alone in my school with my 2 kids, I would have to pay about 10,000 dirhams a term for both my kids to take the school bus.
That's just the school bus. That's
Just the
not the
school
school
bus.
fees.
No.
That's not the cost of food or like living expenses. That's just a bus.
Or I hire a nanny who drives, and that is, again, it's about 4,000 dirhams a month, expense plus my car, plus, the safety. I don't know how she drives.
Yeah.
So there is a lot. Who will take them for these extracurricular activities
Yeah.
that they have to go to? I don't have parents here. We don't have. So that's a huge barrier, because the money that you make after you go back to work just doesn't justify the cost of
There's no
having.
way. There's no way. And unless you're talking about, like, I don't even know. I mean, 5 figures is not even the beginning, right? Because even if you were, privileged enough to make upward of 20,000 dirhams a month as a household salary, there'd still be an enormous chunk that would just go out to childcare.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the reasons why so many women kind of go home when they decide to have children. And it's sad because families are then breaking up. Children are growing up without one of their parents around. But let's talk about a career break and how do you negotiate that? But it must have been really crippling for you to go from being a working woman to suddenly realizing that, dude, I'm not going to have an income. Yeah.
It's for me, it wasn't planned. Like I said, my daughter was sick. I didn't have an option, and I just went from making money to absolutely a big break, a long break. It cripples your confidence in ways that you don't know. I felt the need to justify to my husband constantly where I spent those 100 dirhams today. I went to the salon. I tried to get an offer, but I couldn't. It's that justification. He didn't ask for it, but it was me. So it's, when your mom was talking, I was thinking about it. They have so many prenatal classes, and they tell you, sleep. They prepare you for so many aspects, but nobody really prepares you for the financial shock that you're going to have after you have kids.
Yes.
And for us, it was also because my daughter was sick in hospital. Honestly, sleep consultants, the lactation consultants, I'm trying to breastfeed my child. I have to pay 800 dirhams to see this doctor because I don't have the support. So there are so many elements and aspects to it that nobody talks about.
No.
It's a shock.
It really is. And I really wish, I think because there's so much of joy around the idea of, like, wow, we're pregnant, we're going to have a child. There's so much of joy around it. Nobody wants to say the stuff that's actually going to be a massive inconvenience. So when a woman, for example, decides to take a career break at that point, there's a part of me inside that's screaming, saying, oh, good Lord, please don't, please don't. I don't think you know what's coming at you.
No, you can if you're prepared for it. Like I would write. The minute I knew that I was pregnant, I started saving a little bit of money. It's a small, tiny amount, but at least it does help you throughout. I mean, it keeps going on and on till the child is born, and then you're through all the difficult days. But at least it gives you something to fall back on. So immediately at that point of time, you should think, okay, where is the finance going to come from? That is very important.
I wasn't so
Because everything else is you can manage your sleep, your health, your work, everything. But finance, nobody's going to give you that money. You don't want to stretch your hand out, and it's tough. It really crushes you.
It really does. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about re-entering the workforce, going back to work, and what you need to know if you're a mum right now considering this, or if you know a mum right now considering that choice. So I think from the last bit of the conversation that we had, the one thing that really stuck with me was that, that idea of, like, as soon as you know that you're going to have a child, start kind of putting money away. It's something that I've seen my mum do for all of our lives. She's been the ant in the ant and the grasshopper story, and always saving for a rainy day. But what I really appreciate, right, is now the rainy day has come and she's out there dancing in the rain. And I wish that more of us could actually do that and not be so afraid when we don't need to be. But something I do want to talk about when it comes to fear is the fear of going back to work. If you're a mom who's taken a career break, it is so damn hard to go back. And there's so many intimidating things, but what do you find are the most common ones you see?
Your confidence is on the floor when you're going back after a break, because the workplace has completely changed.
Yeah.
When I went back 7 years after, there were things like, what do I write in an email? How do I send this email? It seems so basic, right? But I don't know how to write an email. What do I wear to work? What do I say in this work meeting? I went back and everything was on Google Drive. For God's sake, what is Google Drive? It really drove me crazy trying to figure that out. There are small things which might seem so basic to most people, but as a stay-at-home mom who's been so out of it, these can be really scary and very intimidating.
If there's a mom out there right now thinking, oh my God, that's me, how do we get help?
The Mom Identity Project will be doing workshops, the absolute basics, 101, how to write your CV, what is Google Drive, what is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Absolute basics we will teach you right from the beginning, 101.
Yeah.
And these are things that are new in the market, like in the workspace, and we will be helping you with it. There is absolutely no judgment. You can ask us, what clothes do I wear on the first day back to work? And we will help you out with that too.
Do you find that when negotiating, women take a huge back step when they're going back because they're just like, I'm just so grateful that you're giving me a job that I will work for peanuts. I'll work for anything. Just give me a chance. Does that happen?
I still do that. I mean, you're absolutely right. It happens a lot. When I launched the Mom Identity Project, I just did my first event and I was like, should I really be charging 100 dirhams? It's so much for a ticket. It was 4 panelists, all absolutely amazing women. There was 2 hours of talk around motherhood, and I really questioned charging those 100 dirhams. And my business coach was like, you're going to charge 250. I was like, no way. Are you crazy? And she was like, you are. I think that we really question ourselves, and it's a question of self-esteem and where you put yourself.
And I find, Rucha, it's also because we have this fear of being rejected at some level, right? We just like, don't say no to me. Like, I'm going to make this so cheap that you'll just say yes. Like, all I need is for you to say yes and say that I have value.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. And so my business coach really puts me back on track. I'm very grateful I'm working with her. She's constantly like, charge this much, say this, money is a big blockage for me. And I get it. It's a very scary thought to ask for money.
We were talking about flexibility in the workplace. Mom, when you went back to work, what were some of the things that you were thankful for? Because if it hadn't been for that, then you would have probably had to quit your job and then we would be in a very bad place right now.
Actually, a lot of things like medical benefits, then extra leave. And there was a little flexibility at that time. Some people did understand that you needed to go home early, or when the child was not well, you had to take leave. These things, a little bit of understanding on that front helps a lot at that time.
Yeah. So, my mom worked in a government bank, right? And here's a story. My mom's bank did not have a bathroom that was decent. You want to tell them the story, Mom?
Oh my God, yes. When I was pregnant with 8 months, and they did not even have we didn't have separate toilets for ladies. And we were in such a situation that even the old buildings that they had taken over were so bad that we could never use the toilet. And for 6 hours, we had to sit without going to a toilet. So these were some of the difficulties that we had to go through.
Yeah.
But there was no other go.
And now we have feeding rooms and stuff in some cool offices.
Exactly.
What would you do?
The concept of feeding and all was not there at that time. I mean, nobody went back to work when you're feeding. That was the problem.
And then if you had to go to the bathroom, why would you go?
There's no way we could use any toilet at all.
You just had to hold
for 6 hours, 6 hours to 6.5 hours. There were days, yes.
When you were
very,
pregnant?
very bad. Yes, when I was pregnant.
Oh my God, your bladder is bursting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we had hardly I used to be there by 9. So by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if I needed to go home, I used to say, I'm sorry, I have to go. I cannot stay here any longer. Once I was questioned, I said, you don't know what's the meaning of this? And I literally had to show him my tummy and say, do you understand in what situation I am? So that is the kind of problems that we had to go through.
Yeah.
I think it's those problems and the women who faced it that really pushed us to reach where we are today.
Exactly.
Really?
So at least things have gotten better, and slowly people have realized that women get back to work. You need all these things,
Yeah.
Sure.
Bathroom for sure.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we need basic stuff like a toilet, Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also I'm a feminist, okay, and I'm currently considering my own options with children, and I have a team full of women, and I know all of them are having these conversations at home as well. But I'm also running a business that I want to keep profitable. So, I mean, I would love to be Google and say that, like, hey, I'm going to open like a daycare center alongside our office, but I don't think as a small business we can afford it. So now what? Like, how do we strike that right balance between being able to create a workspace that is woman friendly, that is possibly in a few years me friendly, right? And continuing to be profitable, right? And to make money, because that's what we're running a business for, right?
Look, I think there are companies clearly out here who are doing it. You don't have to have, like you said, like Google has these crush. You don't have to have play areas inside or nurseries inside your workplace. But you can definitely offer flexibility to these people. My child is sick today, I can't come in. Sure, get the work done from where you are. Of course, unless the job needs you to be here. But if the job does not need you to be there that day, and if it can be done from home, if it can be done from wherever it is, it's small things like this that you give flexibility to, which really goes a long way, I think.
I want to pause there. So if you're someone who's running a business right now, or you're in a managerial position, or you're in a leadership position, ask yourself the question, what can I do in just small steps? Can I give, like you were saying, 40 minutes, come in 40 minutes late if it means it's going to make packing the dabba in the morning that much easier. Ask yourself the question, can this work be done from your laptop at home? If you can make it easier, just make it easier.
I think having more women on top, like I was telling you, Ambika Chauhan, my ex-boss, she runs Parlay in India, and they give, after she became mums to twins, she realized how hard it is to get to work at 9 and clock in. She's given a flexibility, I think, of 30 or 40 minutes to mums in the morning to clock in. And that little thing makes a huge difference.
It's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
So I think it's stuff like that.
Absolutely it is. Mom,
flexibility is very important. I mean, a little bit of time in the morning, or a little letting off early, or you have to take a child to the doctor. I'll just go off. I'll be out for 2 hours. I'll take her to the doctor. These type of things are very important.
It is. And with my mom, it was 2 children and a husband who needed to be rushed to a hospital every once in a bit, right? So I think that kind of flexibility is so important. But Mom, I want to wrap by asking you, what are some of the most important lessons we need to learn? What can I do now so that I can be you at 73 financially? Okay, give me five tips. Come on.
First important thing is know your finances and understand your finances. Save for a rainy day.
Okay.
And when the rainy day comes, enjoy the money. You don't have to answer anybody. You don't have to give explanations to anybody. You can enjoy that money. Whether it's your children or anybody else. You have to think of yourself at that time.
And start early and start small.
Yes, start small. Every drop goes to make the ocean. So whatever that little amount may be, in whichever way you can save it, it's better. That you save it for a rainy day. Even if it's an EMI to buy something. Once the EMI goes, you are acquiring something. When the EMI is over, if you don't need anything, you can save that money. Or even any increment that comes, everything needs to be saved.
I think my mom was a big believer in live within your means. And just because you're making more doesn't mean that your house has to get bigger and your car has to get bigger. And, you can continue and save that money. And I think that was a game changer. And a big believer also in real estate. Come on, give us your last words of wisdom on real estate, Vimla Varadan.
I mean, you have to diversify your portfolio. You can't have very safe investments like bank deposits. And you can enter the share market in a small way by doing SIPs. But also have a little bit of real estate. Even if it means with an EMI, invest whatever and get whatever loan you want. So you can invest in a little bit of real estate and let it grow.
Amazing. Thank you both for an absolutely incredible conversation. I think this is just so important to all of us women out there who are considering becoming mothers, those of us who have already become mothers, those of us who are considering returning to the workforce, and those of us, like my mom, who are on the other end of that spectrum thinking, okay, what about me now? It's time, it's my time in the sun. I hope that we all kind of step into our own and claim that space and own it and live it the way that we should. Thank you guys for an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. If you like what we're talking about, like, share, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. We're going to have more of these conversations about women and money on More Bang for Her Buck, a show that's proudly produced by Brown on the Outside.